Welcome, everyone. Good morning. And welcome to this, our third annual summer meeting for the Alliance for Graduate Education and the Professoriate in North Carolina, which we call AGEP-NC. And just trying to keep my eye on the...
Okay, Winsor is here.
Winsor here?
Yep.
What? Okay.
In North Carolina, and the short name for that is AGEP-NC. The AGEP-NC Alliance includes North Carolina State University, North Carolina Agricultural and Technical State University, and the University of North Carolina at Charlotte. The lists of participants today include the AGEP leadership team, the AGEP or AGEP fellows, the AGEP External Advisory Board, the AGEP Student Leadership Council, college and school deans, associate deans, assistant deans, and director of the AGEP North Carolina Alliance Universities. It also includes department chairs, department heads, and graduate program directors for the AGEP North Carolina Alliance Universities. There are also some provosts, vice provosts, associate and assistant provosts from the AGEP North Carolina universities. There are also AGEP North Carolina friends and supporters from the National Science Foundation. These participants are the drivers of this Alliance for Graduate Education and the Professoriate in North Carolina. The AGEP stands for Alliance for Graduate Education and the Professoriate. The AGEP North Carolina is a 5-year project with the goal of changing the institutional cultures of the 3 universities involved in the Alliance to better serve graduate students from historically underrepresented minority groups who are enrolled in STEM doctoral programs. Specifically, the AGEP North Carolina goals are to develop, test, and study a model to make institutional change to promote the success of African Americans, Hispanics, American Indians, and Alaskan Native doctoral students to complete their doctoral degrees and to progress toward employment in faculty positions. We strive to employ institutional change strategies to improve the climate, practices, and policies that positively impact the success of URM graduate students enrolled in STEM disciplines. We're just completing the 3rd year of the AGEP North Carolina project. The events of 2020 and 2021 related to the coronavirus pandemic have heightened the urgency to the need for doctoral level scientists and engineers representing all ethnicities and races. This year has impressed upon us the need to understand why we have such imbalance in our doctoral programs and how institutional bias has shaped our disciplines, impacted our institutions, and impacted the outlook for the future regarding diversity, equity, and inclusion. Without this understanding, we will remain at a loss for making positive change, and our cultures and STEM disciplines will remain unchanged. We have 2 goals for this meeting: gain a better understanding of institutional racism in the university setting and how it is manifested today. Think about and share actionable ways to shift policies, develop practices, and change the culture in STEM doctoral education to promote the success of URM doctoral students enrolled in STEM disciplines. And I want to emphasize the share. Think about and share. We want input from all of the participants. I would now like to invite Dr. AGEP to introduce our first speaker.
Thank you, Winsor. Good morning, everyone. And I'm very pleased to introduce Dr. Karen Marrongelle. She is the Assistant Director for the Education and Human Resources Directorate at NSF. She has served as a program director in the Division of Research and learning from 2007 to 2009. Dr. Marrongelle received her bachelor's degree in mathematics and philosophy from Albright College and master's degree in mathematics from Lehigh University and a doctorate degree in mathematics education from University of New Hampshire. Since 2014, Dr. Marrongelle has served as a Dean of the College of Liberal Arts and Sciences at Portland State University, overseeing 24 departments and programs and 2,000 employees. During her tenure as a Dean, she has worked to implement student inclusivity measures, establish public-private partnership to support research, and optimize the school's use of grant from NSF and other funding organizations. In addition to her work as a Dean, Dr. Marrongelle has served as a professor of mathematics and statistics at PSU since 2001. Prior to her appointment as Dean, she held position as a Vice Chancellor for Academic Strategies and Vice Chancellor for Academic Standards and Collaboration with the Oregon University System. Dr. Marrongelle's career as a leader in the research community has been marked by a deep commitment to diversity, equity, and inclusion. As an administrator, she has focused on understanding the causes of disparities in educational opportunities and establishing strategic visions for addressing these issues. We would like to welcome Dr. Marrongelle to give opening remarks for the 2021 AGEP Summer Alliance meeting. Dr. Marrongelle.
Thank you so much for that very kind introduction. And I am so thrilled to be here with all of you this morning to join you for the North Carolina AGEP 2021 Virtual Summer Alliance meeting. This is such an important program, and hearing the opening remarks about what you are focusing on to address institutional racism and address barriers for students as they move into their through their PhD programs and into their faculty careers is truly exciting. I want to start by thanking all of you for the invitation to speak today, and to everyone who has been involved with organizing the conference and contributing to this truly outstanding agenda. I know a lot of hard work and effort goes into planning and bringing everyone together virtually in a meaningful way. And I would also like to thank North Carolina A&T State University for hosting this meeting. It really is a pleasure to be here. Much gratitude to all of you who are part of the AGEP North Carolina Alliance. And I'm thrilled that this is an alliance between North Carolina State, North Carolina A&T, and the University of North Carolina at Charlotte, three really amazing institutions. You have been focusing your research on advancing knowledge about pathways to career success, and you have accomplished so much during this pandemic that supports the advancement of minority doctoral candidates, postdoctoral scholars, and faculty in the STEM academic professions. This is critical work that has enormous implications for ensuring the vitality of the nation's science and engineering enterprise. While Dr. Panchanathan, or Dr. Panch as we call him, the director of NSF, was unable to make this meeting, I share his vision of NSF that includes ensuring accessibility and inclusivity, securing global leadership, and advancing the frontiers of research into the future. These three areas or pillars are grounded on the fundamental premise of partnerships being a way to advance into the future, advance science into the future. Our central question that we're grappling with at NSF then becomes, how do we strengthen these pillars at speed and scale? And partnerships is one way that allows us to charge or activate progress quickly, but it will take the entire STEM community, the people within the STEM community, to realize the full potential of STEM talent in our nation. We need to build an agile and adaptable workforce that can upskill, reskill, and succeed with creative mindsets. We need people deeply curious enough to persist and innovative enough to unearth new discoveries of the future. And we know there is so much untapped STEM talent throughout our country. Dr. Panch acknowledges that collectively as a nation, we are facing a moment of truth about racial equity. And we underscore that the inclusion of all people is vital to the nation's health, security, and prosperity. As we look ahead at NSF, it is important to note that NSF's mission has withstood the test of time. And our mission is to promote the progress of science, to advance the national health, prosperity, and welfare, secure the national defense, and promote the progress of science. But it is not only up to NSF to consider what the future will be. It must also involve AGEP and other research and education communities. As the nation is engaged in conversations about race and equity, it remains important now more than ever that we re-examine the STEM ecosystem. And I know this is the work that you are all taking on. In fact, at the National Science Foundation, equity and fairness in STEM is a core value. Over this past year, we have held many panels and listening sessions across the agency to hear from NSF staff, to hear from principal investigators, as well as we've provided opportunities at our sponsored conferences for discussion on how to achieve equity and justice in STEM. Ensuring that all NSF personnel and the scientific community experience an authentic sense of belonging and are treated with dignity and respect is a top priority for the entire agency. Of course, ensuring our future in science includes a diverse STEM workforce, and it also requires that we address what the National Science Board and Dr. Ponch call the missing or invisible millions. It is imperative that we focus on our untapped domestic talent, which will help us bring women, Hispanic, Black, Native and Pacific Island populations into the mainstream of our STEM workforce. Data from the National Center for Science and Engineering Statistics projects that close to 4 million additional people are needed in 2030 for the science and engineering workforce to be representative of the US population. And data from the recently released Women, Minorities, and Persons with Disabilities report shows that while we have made progress, there are still areas that require attention. We have made strides in some areas, but there has been little movement and stagnation in others, in certain disciplines and with respect to different racial, ethnic, and gender groups. What we know is that we have really great data from the National Center for Science and Engineering Statistics showing trends in minority, women, and persons with disabilities PhD attainment. What we don't know is a lot about admissions practices, attrition, retention, and completion in STEM graduate programs. We need transparent data on admissions, retention, graduation, like we have for undergraduate programs. And we need to make visible the landscape of graduate STEM admissions, retention, and completion, and understand who is succeeding and graduating underrepresented persons of color, women, and persons with disabilities with STEM graduate degrees, and what practices can be scaled. And this is exactly where your AGEP project comes in to help us unearth those best practices to supporting students of color, women, and persons with disabilities. NSF cannot do this alone. We need to partner with groups like the Council of Graduate Schools, with professional organizations, especially professional organizations that serve people of color, universities, and alliances like yours. Clearly, AGEP is a pathway leading to diverse STEM faculty through alliances and partnerships. And by aiming to increase your faculty diversity efforts, you may provide students with visible role models for them to aspire to, affecting the long-term sustained change and increased student retention of students of color. So in not doing this alone, we need to be open to what the right solutions will be. And as with undertaking any changes, we need to work through the details of how we would carry out these ideas and be open to collaborations and partnerships that may develop along the way. This may be important to consider, especially when you listen to the keynote presenters later today. Recruitment and retention of the missing and invisible millions is a huge challenge and will require big thinking, which is why there is an NSF alignment, not just in certain directorates or divisions, but across the entire agency and with the National Science Board. The National Science Board's Vision 2030 report, which is pictured here, the 5-year federal STEM education strategic plan, which is called Charting a Course for Success, and the Directorate for Education and Human Resources Advisory Committee's STEM Education of the Future report all have goals for the STEM workforce to reflect and utilize the diversity of our nation. We have been discussing questions and topics such as, what would it take to double the number of PhDs awarded in the STEM disciplines to underrepresented persons of color or to women? How do we support students along multiple pathways to reach their STEM career goals? And importantly, acknowledge those pathways as viable. To ensure that the STEM workforce reflects the diversity of our nation, to reach and to keep the 4 million additional individuals in STEM, we have to do business differently. And this requires a mindset change. We can't make these changes without you, which is why the work you are doing is so instrumental. We at NSF and in the Directorate for Education and Human Resources strongly support your work to diversify STEM faculty. As you may know, EHR also supports efforts to advance equity, inclusion, diversity, and access in STEM education and STEM education research through additional avenues. EHR recently issued a new call for proposals on racial equity in STEM, and here we are seeking bold, groundbreaking, and potentially transformative projects addressing systemic racism in STEM. Our goal is to advance racial equity in STEM education and workforce development through research, both fundamental and applied, and practice. The program's focus is to fund authentic partnerships with communities most impacted by the inequities caused by systemic racism. And this is one of many examples of new programs that the agency is developing and launching to address these critical issues in STEM education. NSF plays a role in getting from where we are now with the missing and invisible millions and where we want to go. We have been surveying the landscape to understand what NSF has done, can do by itself, can do in partnership with others, and cannot do. We've been developing a roadmap for NSF to address the missing and invisible millions, and a key part of our strategy is partnering to affect institutional change and transformation. Institutional transformation is where we need to focus at this point in time to ensure that the work NSF has funded and continues to fund will take root and grow rapidly. Partnering with industry to draw attention and resources, partnering with institutions to enact changes, and partnering with other federal agencies to scale our findings. Also, through NSF's new AGEP solicitation, NSF seeks to build on prior AGEP work and address the AGEP program goal to increase the number of historically underrepresented minority faculty in STEM. Furthering this AGEP goal requires evidence-based systemic or institutional change initiatives that promote equity and the professional advancement of STEM doctoral candidates, postdoctoral scholars, and faculty. As you all know, AGEP focuses on African Americans, Hispanic Americans, American Indians, Alaska Natives, Native Hawaiians, and Native Pacific Islanders who are pursuing, entering, and continuing in a variety of STEM faculty positions. Improving equity and inclusion is critical to the advancement of STEM faculty, educating America's future STEM workforce, and fostering individual opportunity, contributing to a thriving US economy. The NSF AGEP program's focus to advance and enhance the systemic factors that support equity and inclusion, and consequently then mitigate the systemic inequities in the academic profession and workplace. This is such impactful work and aligned with both the goals at the National Science Foundation and with the National Science Board's Vision 2030 report. I hope that what I've shared with you today provides some insights into what we've been thinking and doing in this important area of reaching the missing and invisible millions in STEM. There are so many more ideas we have and things that we're considering, from the benefits of learning from industries focusing on supporting underrepresented persons of color and their work environments, to building on the AAAS Sea Change Initiative, which we provided initial funding for, and well beyond. We have a lot of ideas about what to do, and of course, we would love to hear from you. And so I cannot stress enough with all of you how vital AGEP is and the work that you are doing is to helping address these priorities and ensuring that we engage the missing and invisible millions. I want to thank you for your outstanding work and encourage you to continue to shape and contribute to this research agenda. And before I close, I want to just share some information about the Alan T. Waterman Award, which is the National Science Foundation's annual award, which honors outstanding young U.S. scientists or engineers in fields that the agency supports, including educational research. This award was established by the 94th Congress in 1975 to mark the 25th anniversary of the National Science Foundation and to honor its first director, Alan T. Waterman. Each awardee, up to 3 each year, receives a grant of $1 million over 5 years for scientific research or advanced study in any field of science, plus a medal and other recognitions. I wanted to draw your attention to this because you are actively working with young scholars. And so I hope that you will encourage applications from your networks and the people that you know. Nominations, the nomination period is open July 19th through September 20th. And review of the nominations occurs in 3 phases. That first happens by discipline, a disciplinary committee, and then a super committee that reviews all of the top ranked candidates by the disciplinary subgroups, and then finally by a blue ribbon panel with an in-person meeting here at the National Science Foundation. And if you Google NSF Waterman Award, you can find out more information about this award, but I do hope that you encourage promising young faculty that you know to apply for this award. And so I want to thank you again so much for inviting me to share some words with you today. I hope you have a productive and wonderful meeting.
Thank you very much, Dr. Karen Marrongelle. It was wonderful talk and wonderful introduction. I'm so glad with your busy schedule, you were able to spare some time to have an opening remark. Thank you very much again. The next thing on our agenda is Dr. David Asai. He will be giving talk and he will be introduced by Dr. Maureen Grosso. So Maureen.
Yes, good morning, everyone.